Trades. There's so much going on. Let's dive into it.
And Stevens lined him up too. Let there be no mistake about that. Stevens went at him at 100 miles an hour. He get another go. And he grabs him. He's grabbed Clay on for holding the man.
Back for another trade episode. Now, there's lots going on. A couple of minor updates, and we've got the expert back on because we know my knowledge isn't up to par. But I think I'm getting there, and I think I've got better. But you guys tell me in the comments. But Dilla's back, so welcome, mate. Thank you for coming back on.
Thanks, mate. Excited to be here as always. And yeah, mate, excited to chat some trades.
Any quick words on the grand final? We just spoke a little bit before, but a bit of a dead game. We're recording this the day after the grand final. So, look, not as hungover and dead as we thought because it was kind of over in the second quarter.
Yeah, I thought when Eric Hipwood slotted that one from the boundary.
From the boundary, yeah.
Which he just, if Eric Hipwood's doing that, then it was genuinely game over when he slotted that. And disappointing from the Swans. Very disappointing.
Yeah, I think I said to some people before the game, it's either Sydney blow them out or it's close. It's not going to go the other way. And it was literally the opposite to what I thought was possible. So, look, that just shows my opinion is not something to take too seriously. But, a bit of a dead game. And I wish the Swans turned up a bit more because I was on the Swans.
Yeah, it was we have been pretty lucky the last couple of years. We've had some pretty good, last year anyway. We had a great grand final, really close one. So it's bound to be a blowout every now and then.
Well, let's hope when North's in it next year, it's not quite as big unless we're the one in front and then we beat whoever by 50.
Correct.
Well, let's talk about some players that are going to get us to that grand final next year, mate. We've got a couple here, nothing too crazy. We've got the previous trade episode, which lots of people got around, and they're all the sort of the main targets that we're going for. A couple of small rumours that we'll touch on. And the first one that's been banded around a little bit is Lewis Young from the Blues, a 25-year-old key defender, does stand over 2 meters tall. On paper, looks like someone we should be getting, but when this one was banded around social media, wasn't met with great applause. Played 9 matches. He's played 67 in his career. What are your thoughts on a player like this? He's not too old. He's sort of right in that middle of his career range, but hasn't stuck in the Blues side, was at the Dogs early in his career as well. So what type of player do you think you see here? And is this someone you think we should consider?
It's an interesting one, the Lewis Young one, because as you said, he's over 2 meters tall, so he will play on that bigger forward. So he's not as mobile as an Aiden Core, for instance, who can kind of play on that medium-sized forward, but can also play taller. Whereas Lewis Young can only really play on a tall player, so he's not that versatile. Yeah, because he doesn't move that well. I liken him a little bit to a guy on our list, actually, Will Dawson. I feel like they're very similar players, with Dawson obviously having a bit more upside than someone like Lewis Young. Carlton have kind of put him on the table, I guess, and told him to explore his options. Carlton do have essentially the best tall defender in the game in Wiedering, so it's always going to be hard for Lewis Young to break into a side with Jacob Wiedering in it.
Yeah, I guess McGovern and Haynes coming in as well is sort of put him down the pecking order. Yep. So, he's a little bit on the outer. I don't know. I think it's a weird one for me. I think a player like that, from where we are as a club, isn't a bad guy to take a punt on. So I wouldn't be upset if we did go after him. But I guess with Callum Dawson playing decently well, with the upside of Will Dawson, Logue coming back, Core, and then the unknowns about Charlie Comben, I do find it a little bit strange. I don't think we need a key defender. And not that I want a defender through the draft, but my gut sort of tells me we're probably going for trainer and might play him forward or something like that, which I don't really like. I think I like players in the natural positions, but I don't think a defender for a key position player is a priority for me. How would you see a player like that fitting in? That basically locks Comben forward, you would think, but how do you see a player like that working in our squad?
Yeah, Lewis Young can't play forward, so he'd purely be a key defender. And like you said before, our depth in the key defensive stocks are actually okay. I thought Callan Dawson showed some really good signs throughout this year, and I'd like to persevere with him. And the club clearly thinks that he can play at the level. Will Dawson, they threw in there pretty early as well. So, again, the club thinks he's got a lot of potential and they want to expose him to games pretty early. It's not a priority for me. I think, looking at potentially our best 22, sorry, I'm just moving. Essentially looking at our best 22, Logue, looking at Logue and Comben in our back line, I feel like it's pretty stacked back line now, we look pretty solid behind the ball. And with Aiden Core playing like career best footy with us, I like it. So I don't really want to change it.
Yeah, I think, the only way I could see it happening is if we are going for Comben as the forward. Like, do you want the forward mix to be, like, do we want Comben and Larkey sort of playing those key position roles and Darling being the third if he's playing well enough or doesn't play, if he isn't hitting the form, and then we've got more in the back line. Look, I don't see why this makes sense personally. I wouldn't say no to him. I know a lot of people have been, very negative when they heard his name pop up, but I guess he's that, if you don't have to give up much and don't have to pay him heaps, why not take a punt? Because I feel like he's do you rate him? Do you think he is better than a Callan Dawson? I think he'll be able to perform a bit better than a Will Dawson now, but the prospect of Will Dawson's much, much higher. So could you see him coming in and taking Callan Dawson's spot, or do you think Dawson maybe offers a bit more?
I think Dawson does offer a bit more in terms of run as well from the back line. Like, he loves getting involved in scoring chains and kind of handball receives. That's something I really like about Callan Dawson is his speed. So, if we brought in Lewis Young, I think he'd be, just a VFL depth player if a Logue got injured, for instance. Yeah. Do you think? And in that aspect, sure. Yeah. Like, I'd take him, and as long as we didn't have to give up anything of note for him, sure.
Who plays on the main key forward in our defence then? If Comben goes forward, which my gut sort of tells me he might be, even though I personally think he should play in defence just because that's where he's been most effective in his career so far. Who plays on that key forward? Because Core did a good job. I guess 31 years old. I think he's probably got 2-3 years of being a really good defender left. Who plays on that key forward? If you come up against it like a King or like a 2-meter tower, a big physical guy, do you trust Core still? I know he had a good season, but we've seen in the past he can be iffy. Logue, is he that guy? Like, we still have our defence, to me, still seems undersized if Comben's not down there.
No, I think Logue is the guy to play on those bigger forwards. He's a very strong guy. He doesn't have the height of a Will Dawson, but he certainly has the strength and the athleticism. So I'd say it would be Logue and Core if Comben is forward. I'm with you. I think Comben should be back. He's played his best footy there. He feels more confident there. No injuries. I'd like to persevere with him staying back. He's shown some signs forward. He had that little spurt against Carlton where he kicked 3 1/4.
Yeah.
But I think his best footy is behind the ball.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. All right. Well, look, Lewis Young will TBA on that one. Look, don't hate it, but don't love it as well. I'm kind of neutral on it. I guess the only thing for me is, who plays on? If we play Carlton and you've got Core and Logue on Kerno Mackay, like, I don't know, with the Mackay matchup, just how big he is. But then you look at a Lewis Young who maybe isn't as physical as his height suggests. So, look, anyway, that's, a little rumours about that one, but not like anything's busting the door down for Lewis Young. Another key defender then, Jaden Laverty from the Bombers, 28 years old, 193 centimetre, sort of that Griffin Logue, Aiden Core height, 131 games. He's been around for about 9 odd years now. Yeah, this one, I think I would probably pick Lewis Young over Jada Laverde. I think Laverde's shown maybe more in his career, but just the height and the profile of defender. I think Lewis Young being over 2 meters is probably a better bet if we're going to be getting a key defender out of these two. So that would be my opinion on it. I think I'd rather the 2 meter plus guy because we do have, even when you go down the list with a Callum Dawson on top of Logan Core to play that, mid 190 centimeter sort of role. So what do you think about Laverde as a player? And sort of similar question, I guess, where do you see him fitting or what role does he play if he does come in?
Yeah, he's again, another interesting one. I heard there's been like very soft rumours about him and Jake Stringer touring the club.
Yeah.
I'm 100% with you. I think that our depth in terms of that medium to tall defender, we're fine in, and we don't need another person of that size. He's played a lot of games with Jayden Laverde, but I don't think like the quality of games, like it's nothing better than a Callum Dawson, for instance, can output. So for me, it would be a no on Jayden Laverde. I'd also prefer Lewis Young than Jayden Laverde personally, just to play on that monster key forward if we have an injury or something like that.
Is Lewis Young, just to go back to him really quickly, I know we can't look up players' weights anymore. Is he a skinny guy or has he got a bit of size about him to hold himself in a contest?
No, he's a skinny guy.
Yeah.
He's a skinny guy, but he's a mature body, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So he's 25 years old, so he does have that kind of mature body on him. Laverde's a little bit more kind of bigger and thicker. So, yeah, I just still feel our depth in that medium to tall defender role is quite good. We also have Toby Pink that can swing back there as well at times that we I guess brought into the club to be a defender and then swung forward. So we have a lot of options in that space.
Yep. No, that makes sense. I'd probably say no as well. I'd rather a Lewis Young just for his sheer size. The height gives us a little bit of a different dimension compared to, like we've said, sort of a copy and paste of what we've already got. All right, then his teammate, Jake Stringer. Now this is interesting and terrifying at the same time.
Yeah.
Now, like you said before, rumor has they've toured the club, which sends shivers down my spine. Now, Jake Stringer on his day can be electrifying, but I will be kept up at night imagining a side with Cam Zurhaar and Jake Stringer in it. I think Cam Zurhaar has become very Jake Stringer-like. I hope he comes back and is the bull of old next year. It will be a pretty dysfunctional forward line for me if Jake Stringer comes through, especially with Paul Curtis this year, Eddie Ford. There's options, I guess Braden George. I mean, look, I hope he comes back and has a great career, but we don't know with the knee injuries he's got. But look, for me, it's a straight no on Jake Stringer. I mean, we're trying to build culture here. We're trying to, I'm not saying he's anywhere near as troublesome as a Taron Thomas, but he brings a different set of maybe off-field difficulties. Let's just say that. And look, on his day, I'm sure he can light up Marvel against the Gold Coast, in round 23 and do that a couple of times in the year. But no, I really, really, really hope this doesn't happen.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I think we're at a stage now, and it's a great stage where we can actually say no to players like this. We don't need players like this. We already have, like you said, Cam Zurhaar, Paul Curtis, Braden George, Eddie Ford in that kind of medium forward role. Jake Stringer, he is an annoying player because he can win a match but won't be seen for 4 or 5 weeks at a time. Plays really well against North, as per a lot of these players do. I don't like it. I seriously doubt that we'd entertain Jake Stringer, particularly at the development of where the club's at. We need good leaders. We need good people, not someone like Jake Stringer. So very much with you, heavily against this one. He had a really good year, honestly. Jake Stringer, he kicked over 40 goals. It's been reported by multiple sources that he's told people he's played his last game for Essendon. So I would be looking at like a kind of a Sydney Swans or a GWS that would look at Jake Stringer.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Why do you think? Like, look, the rumor is he's toured the club. Let's just assume it's definitely happened. When there's smoke, there's fire. So why are we giving him a tour of the club? Why do you think we would do that if this doesn't make much sense?
I think it's just to get a feel for kind of what he's after, I guess, and yeah, it's a bit of a strange one why we got him to tour the club. I think in terms of a fit, like it's not a natural fit for us either. Like that kind of player. So
especially Zerha and Curtis down there. Zerha both getting new deals this year. And with what Eddie Ford, look, is Eddie Ford going to be as good of a player as Jake Stringer when he's on? Like probably not. Like Jake Stringer is one of the best in the game when he's on, and earlier in his career was electrifying. But it goes against all we want experience for leadership and we want young players for talent. And I just don't think he fits either of those categories. So you might be right. It's probably just, protocol. A decent enough player is interested, so bring them through and have a chat. But I hope it's not much more than that.
Yeah, it probably just would have been a chat with Rawlings and Todd Viney. But I think, culture-wise, I think we made a really strong decision with Taron Thomas, and we made the right decision. And preserving a culture is so important. And culture is something that gets bandied around a lot, but it is something that takes a long time to build, but you can lose culture very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
And
100%.
To me, Jake Stringer, culture-wise, isn't a great fit for our club. So, and he's also just a player that he's that final piece. He's that cream on top guy. He's not going to help. He's not going to help a developing team.
No, he's not getting us
get from the bottom of the ladder. Yeah, like he's that cream on top guy that can potentially put you into a prelim, or a grand final.
Has a quarter in a final to win the game.
Yeah. So fit-wise, I don't like it anyway. I seriously doubt that this one's gonna happen.
Yeah, and I feel fairly confident that like someone like a Paul Curtis will have a better year than Jake Stringer next year, if not definitely the year after. I mean, he's going to be twice the player we would hope. So, look, let's pray that that one isn't announced on the 4th of October.
I agree.
All right. Caleb Daniel. Now, this is a little bit more interesting. And this one, he's listed as a forward online, but we know, I think, half back wing or half forward in the midfield. He can play sort of everywhere. Not as old as I thought he was. Now, his photo online here with hair, without the helmet on, looks completely different. Does not look as old. 28 years old, 171 centimeters, so a very small bloke, but 28 years old. I was pretty convinced this guy was about 32 years old. And then looking him up, I'm older than him, which makes me feel awful. But as a fit, I don't mind it. I think he's had a really good career for the Bulldogs. He's a really good user of the ball. Unlucky to not be, maybe consistently in the side. What did he play? 16 games, 192 for his career. I like it. I think it's someone we should go after. But then I think about, say, Darling's basically done. Parker's number one on our list. Then you bring in Caleb Daniel, then more draft picks, and hopefully a couple of them play consistently. It's a lot of change. So I would say yes to Caleb Daniel, sort of maybe being that half back to push McKercher up to the wing potentially. But how do you feel about this one? Is this too many players who are going to play all the games, or is this exactly what we need with Parker, Darling, and Daniel, hopefully being the senior players that we bring in?
Yeah, no, when I heard about this one, I was surprised. I mean, we do have a lot of depth in that role. We've got Zach Fisher, we've got
Tucker,
Colby McKercher, Tucker, Goda, Bergman, Hardiman. So there's a lot of halfbacks that we're kind of bringing through, and I think we kind of brought Zach Fisher to play the role that Caleb Daniel plays. He was drafted as a small forward, so he knows where the goals are. He played sub a lot this year as well, which I thought he was really good at, and I like him as that kind of spark off the bench. Obviously a great user of the ball, however, has kind of fallen out of favour a little bit at the Bulldogs. Bevo has kind of preferred to, and it's credit to Luke Beveridge. I kind of my wife is a massive Bulldogs fan, and we would always discuss how Luke Beveridge needed to go earlier on this year. But
yeah,
he's done a great job of rebuilding this team on the run. Like during the year, he kind of rebuilt and he brought in guys like Bramble and Joel Frazier and these sorts to kind of play that halfback role. And Daniel was kind of pushed out. So yeah, bit wise, it's an interesting one because, again, yeah, like I said, we've got a bit of depth in that role. So leadership wise, he's, played in a grand final, played in multiple premiership player, played in and played really well. Played in massive games. He's almost at 200 games. He's only 28, which, like you, I was surprised not to see a 3 at the start of that.
Yeah.
So age-wise, it's a great fit. I just think that we can't have him taking games off it. Yeah, like you said, like a Colby McKercher, for instance.
Yeah, I guess if he could come in and maybe Darcy Tucker was solid though, but does he replace a Tucker and him and Tucker fight for that spot, move McKercher up to the wing? I like Zach Fisher and I think he'll be a really good player for us. But I guess you could also throw Zach Fisher back into the forward pocket as well if we wanted to find something different up there and get that small. Is he going to be the pressure forward we need? Maybe not, but that's where I'd hope a Curtis and a Zerha step up. So look, there's options and it gives us options. I think I'd say yes to this one. I'm interested to see how it would fit, but I'm assuming we wouldn't be giving up much for him. And it does bring quality into the club. And I think, I've had some discussions with people and we'll talk about Dan Houston a little bit later, but giving up a draft capital for established players. And I think it's kind of time we start doing that a little bit more. It's important to keep that in mind, but it's time to start winning some games right now. And I'd say even if we gave up like a third round pick for him or something like that, I think that's completely fine because you know what you're going to get with him, and you're going to get 7, 8 out of 10, nearly every game. So I would say yes, but I'd be very interested to see how the fit goes.
Yeah, and in terms of, you look at Parker and Darling, everyone admits that their best footy is probably behind them, whereas Caleb Daniel is probably in his prime right now, I'd say.
Yeah.
So to get a player in his prime with premiership experience, and I don't know what sort of leader Caleb Daniel is, but at least having that experience around some of those younger players, I think would be extremely beneficial. And I think if you look at, just say you throw him in our team, wherever, half forward, half back, our team is a lot better with him, with a Caleb Daniel in it, in my opinion. So, yeah, I'd absolutely do this. Yeah, and I'm with you. We do need to be really aggressive with these senior players. We've been developing young players for a very long time, so I think it's time to, I guess, be a bit more aggressive with our draft picks and kind of put them out on the table and see what we can get.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, then. Jacob Konstanty. Now, this is someone I hadn't heard much about. He's only 19, medium forward, 177 centimetres. I would hope under 180 suggests maybe small forward to me these days. I maybe think listing him as a medium forward is not correct. Didn't play a game this year, was drafted number 20 in the 22 national draft from Druin. So he's a Vic boy. Now, I've got a couple of stats, just his goal stats from the VFL this year, and he kicked 24 goals, 20 as a small forward for the Swans in the VFL. So, do you know much about this guy? Obviously, didn't play this year. I don't know if he's played a game for the Swans, to be honest. But
he hasn't. No.
No, small forwards, sort of what we're looking for, but no runs on the board for him, really. So you'd say it'd be cheap, but is this someone we go for? I guess getting a Geordie Payne in the mid-season draft and Robert Hansen getting another contract. Do you see him better than those two guys? Would he come in and be better, or would all three of them be fighting out for that small forward role?
Yeah, I'm not too hot on this one. He is a first-round pick, but he hasn't kind of shown. Like, to be fair, he is behind guys like Papley and
it's hard
Wicks
to get in that Swans team.
There's a lot of depth in that squad, so it's always going to be hard to break in. But yeah, looking at his VFL stats and looking at his coach talent league stats. Like he averaged 5.8 tackles in the Coates under 17s, under 18s league. So he's that pressure forward. So he doesn't always hit the scoreboard, but he tackles really hard, which is essentially what we got Geordie Payne in for. Anyway, so I'm not that hot on this one. I'd prefer to keep looking at a Geordie Payne and a Hanson Jr. Rather than this one. I think they're just better options, and we haven't seen Konstanty at a high level. So, in terms of priorities, I think this one would be probably last on our list this trade period of getting someone like him in to the club.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I can't pretend to know much about him at all. We can only really go off some numbers and some stats here. I do take into consideration that it's very hard to get in that Swans team, especially for a young guy like that when they're playing so well. Obviously, except for the grand final. So, look, it'd be a shot in the dark, I guess. I know this rumor has gone completely cold, but the Malcolm Rosas one, he's a player that I think would be better to go after, even though I feel like I've heard things that he's indicated he's going to stay. So, the Owies still being out there, even that's quite speculative for us. Talking about a Caleb Daniel, do you move him or Fisher into the forward pocket? I think there's different options there. So you'd probably rather give Geordie Payne or Robert Hanson Jr.'s development more time than recruiting someone else. But it does feel weird to say no to a small forward. But I guess maybe not quite the profile that upgrades. It's just another option of what we've got, almost like a Laverde. It's just another guy who fits a role we've already kind of covered, even though we do need a better small forward than all the ones we've got available.
Yeah, and you look at the guys that haven't got a contract for the year, like Lazaro and Drury and stuff like that. Like, is he better than Drury? Like, I don't know. But Drury's played AFL.
It's true.
That's all I know. And he's kicked a couple of... So
Cooper Harvey as well.
And Lazaro, Cooper Harvey, like, who knows? So, for me, it's a no. But, it's
just no.
It's so hard to comment on a guy that, we haven't really seen much of and kind of going off stats and just tight. So, I'm excited by how Robert Hanson finished the year. I thought he was really, really good and looked a bit more up to speed with the pace of the game. So I think
started making better decisions as well.
Yeah. Just hitting the scoreboard a little bit.
Just looking at some of Jacob Konstanty's disposals here, and from rounds 1 to 7 in the VFL, he didn't get double-digit disposals. So he would be averaging, looking at his numbers here later in the season, sort of 10 to 15. He's probably averaging about 12 disposals roughly just by the eye test here. And 24 goals, a goal a game, 12 touches a game roughly. It's not standing out to me here. So he's just that pure kind of pressure forward that tackles a lot. Like, I think he has like an 11 tackle game in one of his VFL games. In round 10,
Yeah, but apart from that, there's not much to go off.
Decent tackle numbers though, 7s, 11, 6s, 7s. Then a few lower. There's a few 1s and 2s through there, but Anyway, look, maybe not for me, but we'll wait and see. The last couple of guys we'll chat about. Not new rumours, but I guess we'll chat about Luke Parker and Dan Houston, just because Luke Parker's performance in the grand final yesterday, I think, really showed a lot of North fans what he can offer us. I mean, he was one of the only ones that stood up on that field for the Swans when Heaney and Warner were nowhere to be seen. 3 goals, 14 touches, but just decisive, got the ball in an area that he could be dangerous in and slotted goals when they came. And yes, you can say a little too late, but someone had to stand up on that team. So what did you think of Luke Parker's grand final performance? I was scared watching him get the ball. I was screaming, don't hurt him, don't injure him. But I think that just shows exactly what he can bring to this team. And it made me a lot more excited to get him through. Not that I wasn't already, but it made me very excited to get him through the door, hopefully.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I thought he was huge yesterday, and he was asked to play that defensive forward role on Harris Andrews and Jack Payne to just try to stop them from intercepting the ball. And you got to remember how tall these guys are. And Luke Parker's kind of that 185 midfielder. So I thought he was fantastic, and something that obviously he hit the scoreboard really well, and I thought he was probably one of Sydney's best players on the day, on a dirty day for them. But something that really stood out for me is just some of the tackles he laid were just huge, and you could tell that by those tackles he was trying to lift the team.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Come on, guys! Like we can, let's go." And
yeah, leadership.
I just loved seeing that. Honestly, he was really like driving hard into those tackles and trying to lift his team. So really liked it. Thought he was fantastic, and he's someone that is going to add so much to our group. So really exciting. Thought it was great.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, let's hope October 4th rolls around and this is one of the first things we announce. Rumor has it that, it's basically done, and it's going to be announced next week from Cal Toomey saying that. So, I don't want to go completely off just rumors and things like that, but I think this has to get done. Cal Toomey saying that he expects an announcement next week. Just a couple more quotes that I've got written down here from Cal Toomey on Daniel. He said, we're in a strong position to land him, one of the favourites if he chooses to go. Obviously we talked about all the Laverde and Stringer touring the club and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, look, I trust Cal Toomey, but it makes me nervous because if it doesn't happen, I'm going to be so sad because he was so good yesterday, Parker. And come on, Cal, make sure this research is being done, mate, because you're going to let a lot of North fans down if this isn't true.
Absolutely.
But look, a respected guy in the journalism space expecting an announcement next week. I mean, it looks pretty likely.
Yeah, he said. I think he said something as well that he'd be surprised if Luke Parker wasn't at North Melbourne next year. So, really strong indications, and it's a weird one because like someone like of Parker's, like a couple of years ago, Parker was one of the top 5 in the game. So to get someone of his caliber through North is, just feel like we haven't got someone like this.
No, we haven't
for a very long time, and I know Higgins was a few years younger than Parker when he came in, but
that's
like when we got Sean Higgins in, like I was just, it's that like high caliber player that we need.
Yeah,
so it's a massive coup for the club if we can get him through the doors for sure.
Yeah. And look, we'll just touch on Dan Houston with a couple of minutes left to go here. So, look, I've been a big, very vocal on social media saying this is not happening. Let's chill. And then once again, Cal Toomey comes around and says it's us and the Blues fighting it out for him. So the quote here is basically it's down to Carlton and North Melbourne to secure him. North's offer is significantly higher. And we basically have the draft capital to be able to get it done. So obviously Port would accept our offer. We're offering our first round pick next year. It's just down to Houston. And Houston did say in an interview that, look, he'd like to play in Vic, but will stay at the Power if the right deal isn't there. So he's not pushing a move. He'd like to move, but good on him for doing that too, because I don't like when players force themselves out of clubs to change states. Really quickly on Houston, are you more confident about this getting done? How are you feeling about it in general?
Yeah. So when we talked, would have been a week and a half ago, I thought there was probably like a less than a 5% chance this would happen.
Yeah.
I'm probably now at like a 30 or 40% chance that it might happen. So when players say that, they'll happily like play back, they'll go back to Port or whatever and play if a deal can't be struck. I don't believe that.
Just to keep the fans happy.
Yeah, I think he has to say that stuff. I think he 100% wants to come home.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just between us and the Blues. I think Collingwood are involved personally, and I think, and that was actually reported this morning on the Footy Show that Collingwood are keen on it. Whether they can get a deal done, I don't think that they can because they're trying to get Harry Perryman out of GWS, so they've got their hands full there. But then someone like the Bulldogs as well. Like I wouldn't discount someone like that because when they when Bailey Smith leaves, they're going to have a lot of like draft capital.
Yeah, especially if Caleb Daniel does go as well, sort of that half-back role.
Yes, yep. So they could easily bring in someone like Houston, and it was reported this morning as well that he wants to play for a big Melbourne club. So which we aren't, but no, like I'm feeling a little bit more confident about it, but I still think that Carlton would be the favourites right now to land him. And they just need to do some wheeling and dealing. I think that would probably be Dan Houston's preferred destination. But, I mean, if we could, just looking forward, if we could bring in Jack Darling, Luke Parker, and one of Houston and Caleb Daniel, that would be a very good trade period for us.
No, I agree, mate. Look, that would be unreal. I think obviously, give us a Daniel Parker and a Darling. I think that's more in the realms of reality for us.
Yep.
Look, if Houston get done, just go and get it done. I think with players like that, especially where we are as a club. So look, not expecting this one to get done. I'm a little bit more intrigued by it at the moment, but look, I still don't think this one gets done, but it's good that we're in because I'd rather support a club that goes for it than sits back and goes, that's not, on our cards. So, look, we'll keep our ears peeled, mate, for this one because who knows?
And whether this is relevant or not, but there is history between our two clubs with deals. And that I think that does play a little bit of a part. Like we have done obviously deals for Jason Horne-Francis and
Pollock
ones
and
that we'd like to, ones that we'd like to not remember, Pollock and Pittard. But there is a history of the clubs trading players there. So look, I don't know. I do feel a little bit more confident than what I did 7 days ago. But I still don't think we're favourites to land him, if that makes sense. So, but wouldn't it be great to land him? That would be amazing.
No, absolutely. All right, we'll wrap it up there, mate. That's enough trade talk for me. My brain's going to go and take all that information in, and I'm going to have a lie down. But look,
it's a weird one. We're already over trade period; it hasn't even started yet. And
I know. Yeah. Look, when more stuff happens, you'll be straight back on here, mate, because you're my brains and my knowledge for this. So look, thank you for coming on again, and we'll chat to you soon.
Thanks for having me, mate. See ya.
Easy, man. Bye.